Zaldrizes buzdaris gosdau.
Hey, before I jump into the content of this video, please do me a massive favor and slap a like on it. Also, if you really enjoy my stuff, make sure you're subscribed and then have your notifications turned on. The reason why I ask for this is because obviously those things help the engagement with YouTube, but more importantly, my channel's being shadow banned. You could either go into incognito mode or on your regular account, like I'm doing it and showing you right now on my account, typing in House of the Dragon, none of my videos show up. It's pretty insane, right? So if you enjoy my stuff, please just help me out by doing those three things: interacting with me, leaving me your thoughts down below about this video, slapping a like on it. The like goal is going to be 420. And then also, this is the most important thing: make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned. And then lastly, this is so I don't have to include this message in every single video, consider checking out my Patreon. Eventually, when I reach my goal of reaching $1,000 to $1,500 a month, I won't no longer rely on YouTube's ad rev as heavily, and then I'll be able to more freely explore different types of content that I want to make in the long night or the wait for House of the Dragon Season 2. Let's begin. Okay, so first things up. Did Helaena, right? And the reason why I'm focusing on these three different topic and talking points is because I didn't really do them justice. In the next series of videos that I'll be making along with my live streams every Thursday at 12:30 p.m. I know that's an awkward time, but that's the best for me because obviously I have two small children and raising them is very difficult and time consuming. So when I make the live stream date, that was just the best time slot available for me personally, right? But eventually that could change. Right now, that's when the time is going to be, Thursday at 12:30. I want to cover things that I didn't discuss in my episode breakdowns, or now that we're officially in the long night, things that will take long forms for me to explore, because as I'm making these videos, I'm sort of figuring it out, right? I'm watching the show at least, I'll say probably at least a total of 10 to 15 times before we get season 2, right? So did Helaena, which is a character that deserves so much more of my attention in these videos, right? Did Helaena get the same dream that Viserys got? And like that just came to me when rewatching the episode. It obviously makes sense at several different points in the story, right? She tells us about the beast under the boards and Rhaenys, also about the cloth of gold, the cloth of red, right? She's talking about the two different things there. Obviously, the greens versus the blacks in the upcoming war, right? But then also the fact that time, and this is kind of a deeper metaphor, at least I took a lot of liberties with this, but basically time itself in Westeros is like a spinning loop or loom, and it's ever weaving and ever spinning, and Helena's just an amazing character, right? So if she did get the same dream as her father, which would be the A Song of Ice and Fire, which means that in order for Westeros to defend against the Long Night, which is the White Walkers and the oncoming threat of ice, this is a Song of Ice and Fire, in order for them to defeat that, Westeros must remain united. Ultimately, if she did have the same dream, and it just hasn't, been said yet because Helaena has a difficult way of communicating. Obviously, I have those same difficulties here in real life. You can hear it from my videos. I don't script these. I just write down like a couple sentences for notes and a couple talking points and stuff. Ultimately, I can relate to her a lot, right? Also, she's very attractive, so that helps, right? But one of the things that she could do in season 2 is confront her mother about that dream. Obviously, the dream has nothing to do with putting Aegon on the Iron Throne, and she knows her father and her have probably talked about it. She's definitely a dreamer, and he had that one dream that one time, and the gift sort of left him, and it probably left him because he no longer rode Velaryon, right? So that ability and that power left him. And you got to realize that Helaena still rides her dragon. She rides Dreamfire, who was initially ridden by this character Rhaena, who was basically Jaehaerys' sister, and she was forced to marry her uncle Maegor. A very similar thing happened with her after that, is that she was skipped over for the crown a few times, and she sort of never really got over that. But ultimately, she's very similar to Rhaenys. And her dragon, Dreamfire, is now ridden by Helaena, and the name itself is very prophetic, Dreamfire, right? But Dreamfire is known for two things. One, laying a bunch of clutches of eggs, and potentially being the mother of a lot of the dragons that we see and will be seeing on screen. And then also, she's the one who destroys, and this is a spoiler alert, I'll give it to you right now. Dreamfire is the one who ultimately destroys the dragon pit when flying up and cracking the dome, the top, the roof of the dragon pit, and making it collapse and kill everyone inside and all the dragons that are inside. I think it's something like 6 dragons are ultimately killed in the storming of the dragon pit, but that's something that's going to happen in what's likely either season 3 or season 4 of House of the Dragon. So that's going to be insane. But one thing to know about Helaena, and if she does confront her mother, is that Alicent would be in a lot of trouble, because obviously that conversation they would have would be very awkward. Helaena probably knows her father better than anyone else aside from Rhaenyra, and probably better than Rhaenyra in the later years, because she spent so much time with him. And I know a lot of people make memes about how the Greens, Viserys basically ignores them, but that's just what we've been shown on screen. We sort of got to make up the difference, and obviously he loved his daughter Helaena, especially when they bond over the fact that they both had dreams. And then also, like I said, if she did, she wouldn't exactly bring it up in conversation with someone else, because that scene would be kind of awkward if they slip that in, and then she can't communicate very well. Like myself, we're both neurodivergent. I was like, and then also if Aemond and Helaena have a relationship, we all know why. The looks that they exchange with each other, and those are actually his kids and not Aegon's, which it would actually make a lot of sense for this show, seeing as who Aegon is, right? It would be even crazier after Blood and Cheese happens, and this is the fuel that ultimately gives Aemond the hate when he's hunting Daemon through the Riverlands, but ultimately avoiding him because he's afraid. Now, real quick, I've explained Dragon Dreams a bunch, and I've actually done entire videos and entire live stream discussions about what they are. So in short, Dragon Dreams are these prophetic visions that are given to Starks. Haha, just kidding. Targaryens, right? The Starks have their version of prophetic dreams. It's called green seeing, and then also wolf dreams. Jon Snow is half Targaryen, so he potentially has dragon wolf dreams. But anyway, Dragon Dreams can either be good or bad. It depends on who they're given to. Dragon Dreams for Helaena and Viserys appearingly will be good. Helaena keeps trying to warn everyone around her about the doom that's going to come towards them closely. But speaking of doom, Dany's the dreamer. She is a prime example of why Dragon Dreams are amazing. They saved the Targaryen family, and that Dany's the dreamer and Aenar the exile left 12 years before the doom of Valyria and moved into the furthest Valyrian outpost closest to Westeros, known as Dragonstone. They went there with 5 dragons, right? Velaryon was one of the ones that were survived after that, so he was around when Valyria was still in its prime, right? When Aegon the Conqueror decides to conquer Westeros, but they saved the Targaryen family and dragons and ultimately allowed Aegon to unite Westeros, leading to them ultimately, hopefully, the Targaryens being involved in defeating the White Walkers coming down. But wait! There's more. One of the bad ways that Dragon Dreams can affect a character negatively is someone like my favorite character, Aegon V. Aegon the Unlikely. The reason why he's called Aegon the Unlikely is because he's literally so far removed from the line of succession that it's unbelievable that he wears the crown. But this dude is the main character alongside Duncan the Tall in the Hedge Knight series, which is a novella that George has written in between the main series. We're supposed to be getting a show. I can't wait. The writer, I think, on that is Steve Conrad. Hopefully, they'll start casting people soon in this wait for season 2. It'll be an exciting time and a perfect time to release news about all these other House of the Dragon shows and even Winds of Winter, because House of the Dragon season 1 is no longer out. And I say House of the Dragon shows, but ultimately they're World of Ice and Fire shows. But when news like that comes out about those shows, it won't be swallowed up by the awesomeness that is House of the Dragon and it taking over all the headlines. So the character that I'm referring to, Egg the Unlikely, in my opinion, this is a well-accepted theory. I'm not the one that came up with it. When I was reading the material, I came up with it immediately in my head, and that's obviously the point of it. That's why George laid the clues out the way he did. So Aegon V, we have a picture of it written by, yes, the picture was written with paint, and it was done beautifully by Mark Simonetti. And Mark Simonetti is George R. Martin's favorite artist for A Song of Ice and Fire, one of his favorite artists that does work commissioned officially by him. But he did this painting I'm showing you right now. It's The Tragedy at Summerhall. Aegon the Fifth is involved in this, and so is Duncan Egg, and this is where they die. So what ends up happening is later in life, this is confirmed, it's mentioned in World of Ice and Fire, and eventually in Fire and Blood Part 2, when that does come out, it'll be further expanded upon than what the material we get in World of Ice and Fire. But Aegon the Fifth is a good king. He's an amazing dude. He's a king of the small folk because he's raised by Sir Dunk, who's basically a hedge knight who grew up with his dude Sir Arlen of Pennytree, and he just spends a lot of time with people in the kingdom that are not of the blood and they aren't Targaryens, so they just have a lot more problems that the common man would have. So he's a really good king, Aegon the Unlikely, since he spent his youth doing those kinds of things. And ultimately, he gets to a point that a lot of Targaryens do when they don't have dragons, is they realize if they did have a dragon, or a bigger dragon in some instances, they would be able to bend their foes to their will. And at this time, Aegon the Unlikely, and it'll be expanded upon in Fire and Blood Part 2. Like I said, Fire and Blood Part 1 is already out right now. That's what I'm talking about in all these videos. When that does come out, we'll find out that he had a hard time controlling the Seven Kingdoms because it still is only a few hundred years after Aegon the Conqueror, and ultimately something like a dragon would make everyone unite and be like, okay, well, let's listen to what this dude says. And like I said, he's one of the best kings. So what ends up happening is he finds a way to bring back dragons. He gets back dragon eggs. He gets sorcerers from across the Narrow Sea. I believe maesters may be involved, and there's some rituals with some Valyrian mages, or at least people that are pretending to be Valyrian mages, and wildfire is involved, and they try to bring back dragons. And obviously that ends in tragedy. I think what ends up happening is Aegon the Unlikely gets dragon dreams later in life, and that makes him see what happens to Daenerys. We all know what happens to Daenerys. Game of Thrones Season 1, Game of Thrones, the first Song of Ice and Fire book. At the very end, Daenerys walks out with dragons, dragon eggs that were previously stones, and she brought back dragons and fire magic into the world, right? So this is what Aegon the Unlikely sees, and instead of realizing that it's Daenerys, he thinks it's himself. And he knows that Daenerys is in a lot of pain because she just lost Khal Drogo, right? So he embodies that pain, and he's like empathic towards it. And he's like, oh, I must lose everyone near me. That's the only thing that would make me feel that sad. So he sacrifices everyone near him because he thinks, I'm going to be able to walk out with dragons. And he thinks that's worth it. So the dragon dreams, it's a bad example, drives him mad, and he kills everyone. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with Helaena in this TV show. Now, last thing I want to talk about is what will be the opening scene of Season 2. Now, I personally have thought about this and racked my brain since before Season 1 even came out, because I've been thinking about where Season 1 is going to end. So I came up with two things, and this is the second thing I came up with after watching Season 1. We didn't get to see a close-up of Sunfire. It'd be awesome to get to see Aegon, if not the opening scene, one of the opening scenes. Well, there can't be more than one. Very close to, in the beginning of the episode, we get a shot of Aegon flying with Sunfire over King's Landing, because we haven't seen Sunfire up close. And it's not just that I'm an Aegon 2 fanboy. Obviously, I am. And I've been a fan of the man before I even seen him on House of the Dragon, because I've seen his work in some of the other movies that he's been in. So that's awesome. And then also, he shared one of my posts on Instagram, so that's fucking amazing. I have it pinned on my Instagram. If you want to go follow me or go see that, it's sir_hunts_reviews. But it would just be cool to see Sunfire the Golden, because Sunfire the Golden is said to be the most beautiful dragon to ever have existed. So I'm not just a green fanboy, I'm not just a black fanboy, I'm both. But from a green fanboy side, wants to see the most beautiful dragon ever, because it's supposed to be the most beautiful dragon ever. So I'd like to see that for a close to opening or beginning scene for House of the Dragon Season 1. But the other thing, the other scene that I want to see is Jace in Winterfell with Cregan, and he'll be flying on his dragon Veermax over Winterfell, and we'll see that familiar location, Winterfell courtyard, with people who look exactly like Jon Snow and family, right? We'll see Cregan, and they'll be fighting and training out in the courtyard, and then hopefully Jace will have the balls to land his dragon there. That would be dope. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could, please slap a like on this video. Like goal's going to be 420. And then also, like I said, consider checking out my Patreon. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching if you can't do any of that, but consider checking out my Patreon, because ultimately, once I no longer rely on YouTube's ad revenue, I feel way more open and creative to really not care if my content is promoted in their algorithm. And to be honest, I racked my brain to try to figure out what the hell I'm doing to not get promoted, and I can't figure it out because I'm not even cursing. I probably said I don't even think I cursed in this video, but thank you for watching. Along that,